And we are live for episode 236 of Trek Live. How are we doing this morning?
Doing good. Excited to talk about Lower Decks this morning and our rewatches and just give an overall update of Star Trek. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, some decent news this week that I guess we could just cover right off the top, just to uh, touch on it, and then kind of move on to our rewatches, and then we'll get into some lower decks. So, yeah, Star Trek Prodigy is alive and has a new home. It's going to be on Netflix pretty soon here. It sounds like season one will become streamable there. Um, and season two will drop sometime in 2024. So, uh, pretty decent outcome, I think, for a couple of reasons. I think I think a show like Prodigy probably has a better shot of discovering or being discovered by people, um, a more general audience on a streaming service like Netflix, which is much more widely uh, had by the general public. Netflix has a big catalog of children's programming. They have a handy way to set up an account that's just for such programming that I assume Prodigy will be part of. Um, so I think it gives it a chance to kind of carry out its mission statement and find new people, find young people, find young families, and kind of maybe open the door for Star Trek for folks who haven't seen it before or maybe haven't had a reason to find it in the past, more than Paramount Plus did. I think your odds of finding it on Paramount Plus were pretty low unless you were there for Star Trek anyway, right? So um, it's I'm kind of optimistic about that. It sucks to not have it all in one place, the way that it's been kind of the Paramount's obviously been driving towards for the last few years, but um, I think this is probably the next best outcome. I've thought since Prodigy became a thing that the way to go for it was probably for it to air on Nickelodeon and then eventually stream on Paramount Plus to give people that chance to find it, to back into it, to accidentally stumble into it. Um, and they did not go that way. They went directly to Paramount Plus, and it kind of trickled on to Nickelodeon at various points, and uh, with not a whole lot of fanfare. I don't think so. I think it was kind of mismanaged from the beginning, but I think this is a decent, uh, opportunity for a little recovery, at least for 2024. What do you think?
Real quick,
Yeah.
uh, refresh my memory. Were we guaranteed a season two?
Well, they guaranteed that they were going to finish season two. When they announced what they were going to do, they said that season two was going to be completed, and that
Okay.
the aim was to complete it
We
and find a
okay
new home
then.
for it. Mhm.
Then we knew we were gonna get it somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. I think the optimism was there from the beginning that this was likely to wind up somewhere, or maybe be a direct video kind of a thing if they couldn't sell it to a streaming property like Netflix or Apple or something like that.
So did the fandom save Prodigy?
Um, it's a good question. I don't know. I
I
mean, I think Netflix.
it's
Mhm,
it's just and we don't have to get into that,
mhm.
but I think that I don't know. It just I, I don't know. I'm just trying to manage my expectations and try to remember what actually happened because
Right.
I don't know.
I think the fandom can save Prodigy in a sense. Like, yeah, I think if it does good numbers on Netflix, I think the opportunity to give it new life and to have it be a an ongoing thing and not just a place to drop an existing show, uh, rides with people watching it on Netflix, and for Netflix to see numbers coming its way. Um, you know, I know the Hageman brothers who created Prodigy have a relationship with Netflix. Their prior shows of that sort, like family-friendly animated shows, have largely been on Netflix, I believe. So I think a lot of folks have kind of hoped and presumed that this is the way it would go because of that connection. That there was already a relationship there, a trust there, a kind of a beaten path that would get the show to Netflix possibly. Um, I think the fans, I think the chatter online, the success of seeing it trend and seeing it show up on things like the Apple top download when it became able to be purchased,
Available. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
available for streaming there for purchase. I think those kinds of numbers, I'm sure, played a part in you know making sure Netflix knew it would be a good move. Um, but Netflix is as big as they come, and they make decisions for all kinds of reasons, and kind of know what they're doing. I'm sure on that front. So I think the real test for us, the fandom to make a real impact would be to deliver good numbers to Netflix to watch it there and to make it a success there, so that um, maybe there's a season three. If Netflix is all about the coin, and they'll continue a show for as long as it's they're getting their bang for their buck. So um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a 50-50 kind of a situation. I think it helps to have some chatter about it online and have it not be a completely, a dead entity. I don't think Netflix has much desire to pick it up if nobody's talking about it anywhere and it's not, generating any kind of a blip on social media. Um,
But the Paramount's not gonna say we're gonna finish it to not put it anywhere.
you would think, yeah, correct. I think if
So
they knew it was dead, dead, then
so
I don't think yeah,
yeah.
I mean, networks cancel shows all the time, and when they cancel a show, they cancel a show. It stops. It's generally uh, that's more common than not, I would think. And so, yeah, I think the fact that, like you said, Paramount, committed to finishing it, it's still a Paramount production. That's the thing. I mean, there's a difference between. I keep having to remind myself of this, and seeing articles about it. Paramount production is different than Paramount Plus streaming. Like the delivery system, the distribution of the show is like a marketing arm. It's one arm of the Paramount company. The Paramount production side is another arm. Not every, it's still going to have the Paramount logo as a part of it. Maybe at the end of the credits, you're still going to get that end for the Netflix at the beginning, but the Paramount name will still be associated with Star Trek Prodigy. But yeah, I think if they knew it had been shot and that it was just a kind of a dead thing, it was the sensible move from the dollars and cents side of things would have been to just call it quits and let that be that. But so yeah, it's a complicated situation. Like I said, I think it's a good landing spot for it. I'm curious now. Like one thing I haven't seen a ton of chatter about is when the show does drop in 2024. Netflix doesn't do the 1 week at a time business. Like that's not their model. So,
They release it all at
yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So whether or not they look at it like two halves of a season and do 10 and 10, or they just drop 20 episodes in one shot, will be interesting to see. Um, that's a new phenomenon for Star Trek fans to get like giant chunks of episodes dropped on them like that. That'll be interesting to watch. I can't wait for the social media Star Trek circle way of like consuming that and trying to talk about so many episodes dropping at once. That's just going to be it's going to be a new one. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad it's got a home and that we won't have to like dig and buy a Blu-ray or buy you know a digital download on some far off corner to see season two, and that it has a life and it's going to be on a very accessible, very successful streaming service. So where it goes from there is a mystery to all, and
Yep.
we'll see as the next year
Yeah.
plays out. So
And again, I'm not trying to rain on Prodigy's parade here. I'm
sure,
just trying to just I don't know, just
mm-hmm.
a realistic outlook
On
on
like how the business of it kind of
on how the
happens.
business, because I don't know, it's frustrating because I know just because I feel like I'm in that world a little bit. I think like that shows aimed at that demographic can also just really take over and not just for that age group. And so I think that
Mm-hmm.
um, it can be done to be a super successful that takes
Oh yeah,
over all ages. So I'm not trying to say that this show can't work. I'm just trying to manage my expectations
Do
about
do you want to
Paramount.
name the show that your daughter loves that you also love?
Well, just like example, like Bluey is like one of those shows where it like we are just always constantly trying to get an update of when new episodes are gonna drop. And
Yeah,
so yeah, my daughter loves it, but also my wife and I, we do enjoy it too. So it's just like
yeah,
it, I don't know, it can work.
it can, it can.
Um
Just
I
like a
just
Disney movie can work. I mean, there's a difference between
exactly.
programming aimed at kids and programming aimed at everybody, and that has value to more than just the 3-year-old or the 4-year-old sitting there. There's something to take away for anybody who happens to be watching. And I think so far Prodigy's done a really nice job of that. And you know, with the right.
But
Mhm.
but yeah, it's and again on Paramount Plus, Prodigy was not the only. They had the whole Nickelodeon catalog was
Yeah,
on there. So
yeah.
again, I think I'm with Bill here. It's just the rollout of and how it was distributed and stuff.
Hmm.
I think is probably the major, um, thing that maybe why it wasn't picked up for another.
Yeah, I just don't think Paramount Plus had a reputation for, like, if you talk to people about Paramount Plus who aren't Star Trek fans, I don't think people think of it as a place to get like family programming, like new family shows. If you have children, if you're in a family home, like, is that a place to go to find things like that? Sure, they have the old Nickelodeon catalog. You might know that if you're a Paramount Plus subscriber. Uh, but other services like Netflix, especially, have like that people know what's on Netflix. People know that there are things to put on for kids and to put on for the family. Um, on that service. It's just the perception, and the simple fact of the matter is that Paramount Plus's subscriber numbers are far less than Netflix's. It's just a matter of that too. Like people have Paramount Plus for all kinds of reasons, but one of the big ones is track. That's a big driver for their numbers. I'm sure they have other things too, but I think the odds of people finding Prodigy the way that the creators of the show were kind of designing the show to work for was not entirely high, just based on where it was living. Um, so, um, right, Jeff saying in the chat, his 7-year-old daughter really enjoys Prodigy, but that didn't get them another subscriber, as he already subscribes for Star Trek. That's I love seeing people on Star Trek Twitter talking about sharing Prodigy with their children. That's great, and that's what it's for in a big chunk. A big chunk of what it's for. I love to see it, um, but it's also for you know the kid who has never seen it before and wouldn't ordinarily find it. And I think on Netflix maybe there's a better chance to kind of unlock somebody who wouldn't ordinarily be placed in front of Star Trek to get to see it and maybe bring in some new folks. So, um,
Didn't mean to go down the Prodigy
yeah,
rabbit hole for that long, but
I'm
it was
glad we
good
did.
that
It's big news.
yeah.
Yeah. Jeff says his kids watch Paw Patrol and Ninja Turtles on Paramount Plus, so it does have some kids content, and that is relatively popular for sure. I mean, it's definitely Paramount Plus, to its credit, I think is getting better and better. I hear it, and I always kind of judge like, what do I hear at work? Like, what streaming services do people talk about watching things on? I hear a little more of Paramount Plus lately than I did at least a couple of years ago. So maybe it's you know it had a better shot than I'm saying to do that, but I definitely think Netflix is about as broad at home as you can find. So in that world, um, let's dive into our rewatches real quick. Just take a few minutes to touch on what we've been watching. That's not new in the world of Star Trek, and then we'll get into the last couple of Lower Decks episodes for a bit as well. Um, I know you watched at least one. I saw a picture and
Yep.
I know what it was.
Yeah.
Let us know.
I'm
What,
a,
what do you think?
I'm officially in 1994. I
Yeah.
think I watched the I think it was the 10th. I think it was released on January 10th.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, before we kind of talked about how I hadn't watched much lately, and so it was kind of nice to get back into the Pegasus last night, I think, and these these two episodes that I just watched, the last time we talked, um, I feel kind of, at least season 7 feels kind of up and down here and there. And so when these two episodes kind of came about, it feel better than kind of normal, because I think, um, I gotta check what exactly episodes next. Um,
So you
but
got,
I think it just it if I remember correctly, it goes down because I think Sub Rosa is.
it's
I don't
coming.
think it's the next one, but it's maybe 2 or 3 after that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think it there's definitely some ups and downs in season 7. But no, the Pegasus is really good. I think, anytime I come into that episode, I'm always like, man, do I really buy that Riker would do that to and not come clean to, um, his current captain? But I think it makes sense because he's technically following orders, and I always forget
Mhm.
that his, um, man, I forget his name already. The
Pressman.
Admiral that's
Yeah,
Pressman that's in this episode is technically a commanding officer for everybody.
yeah, yeah.
So he doesn't really keep this from Picard. It's more of a direct order,
Yeah.
so it's kind of that gray area. And so I think that's kind of the beauty of the episode. And it's I think it's you see some growth with Riker when he finally comes clean about it. But no, I just think that I always, when I started the episode, I'm like, man, do I really buy Riker what he's about to do? And then,
Mhm.
watching the episode, it kind of reminds me of, oh no, it's technically a commanding officer, so
Yeah.
it's kind of playing on that. There's obviously a lot of trauma there, so I think he steers into
Yeah.
more of like trying to stay true to his, like, follow the chain of command.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's really good. And I don't know, it's one of those episodes that kind of comes out of semi left field, because we talked about parallels, how good that felt, kind of coming off kind of some of the episodes that I had been watching. Um, but again, you kind of go a little bit more middle of the road with Homeward, and well, then jump up to
Lower decks is right
yeah,
around
Lower
there.
Decks, and Masks is one of my guilty pleasures. So yeah, it's definitely up and down
Yeah.
for season 7 of the Next Generation.
Mhm. Yeah, I couldn't echo that more. It's definitely up and down for me too. The Pegasus, I think you nailed. That's the tightrope that the episode has to walk, right? It has to convince you that Riker is conceivably, is credibly torn. And I think Freitz's performance always sells me on, like, I think he knows that he knows the right thing is to tell Picard. Like, I think he knows, like, that's the comfort thing. That's what he wants to do. If he could do what he really wanted to do, that's what he would do. He knows that's the right move. But you're right. Pressman is an admiral. He outranks Picard. He's the senior officer on deck, and it's his first commanding officer. There is trauma involved. He made a decision all those years ago to side with Pressman, so there's complicated things going on, and it is a tightrope, and after 7 years, it's a hard thing to ask, for Riker to, have to make that choice and to walk it for 40 minutes. Um, maybe in season 2, it's a little easier to 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 find a groove where Riker can, you know be kind of torn. This one has a tall order to deliver, and I think Frakes' performance in this one's as good as he's been in the show. I think it's one of his better. Like, he's always good. I mean, I love him in peak performance. I love him in frame of mind. He's always awesome. Um, but this is up there for me as, like, one of my favorite Frakes performances because of that. I think that a lot of it rides on him selling you that he's torn, and what he really wants to do, and what is kind of what the line of duty is telling him to do, are two different things. And
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah, and I don't know, and I think that, and even Pressman, like, I feel like has weight behind it, because
yeah,
in my head canon, it's like, post Wolf 359, which we are in, I think there's a more emphasis on security and stuff like that. So um,
yeah, good point.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I would agree. So you're coming into the meaty middle of, season 7. You got everything ranging from Sub Rosa and Lower Decks like literally right around the corner. So uh, it's a fun stretch because even the misfires are interesting and fun to talk about. Um, but you got some great ones too. Lower Decks is as good as it gets, and that's a big time classic. So yeah, I'm into season 5 of Deep Space Nine, season 3 of Voyager. Um, season 5 of Deep Space Nine is obviously like top tier Star Trek as far as I'm concerned. Uh, Kicks off with a bang. Apocalypse Rising is a great Klingon episode. The Klingon subterfuge to infiltrate the party central with the drinking games and the just the Klingon stuff loaded in that episode is really fun. The ship is one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek. Um, I
So good.
yeah, it's the kind of episode that Deep Space Nine is definitely the best at, creating that like real pressure cooker, letting the character interactions really drive the story, the tension, the fear, the the sweat, the dirt are all like so prominent and such a big part of that episode. Um, and I'm just really big fan of that one. And then Voyager season 3 actually is like I talk a lot about. I love talking about episodes that don't get a lot of discussion, don't get a lot of like spotlight thrown on them. They're not picked as favorites. They're not necessarily like infamously, cited as the the classic bad episodes either. Just a big mushy middle of that is just like full. That season's full of those kinds of episodes. I think the shoot is one that your mileage really could vary. I love the shoot. Other people don't like the shoot. I like Remember. A lot of people don't like that. Um, I'm a big fan of Worst Case Scenario later, way deep into the season. Um, you know, episodes like Alter Ego and Coda are they don't get talked about much, but I think they're good, solid episodes of Star Trek, and they're they're fun to dive into because they just don't get a lot of pub, and I always enjoy this season for that. I like Blood Fever. I know you're kind of mixed on that one. It's a little up and down, but that's what I'm talking about. Like episodes like that they're not unanimous necessarily. There are people who can kind of take them or leave them as like great or good or kind of in between. Uh, but it's one that I can go into and my opinions kind of shift a lot in these as far as like where I stack them and how strongly I feel about one or the other. Moves around a good bit because they're not classics, but I think they're good and have strong qualities. It's the pre 7 of 9 Voyager, which I think kind of gets the shaft a little bit at times too, with just not maybe getting talked about as often. Some of those episodes. So really looking forward to diving deeper into this season and um, covering some of the ones that really popped to me. But so far, it's the shoot for me is my favorite of season 3 of Voyager. Up to where I am. I'm up to Sacred Ground on Voyager, and I'm up to The Assignment on Deep Space Nine. So good stuff.
Yeah, all good stuff. It's hard too, especially if you're up against season 5. That's just that's a tall order for Voyager to try to go up against. But yeah, it's all good stuff.
Yeah, Jeff's asking if I prefer season 3 or season 2 of Voyager. I prefer season 3. Um, Season two's got that rough stretch in the front end. I think there are quite a few uh, that sit a little lower for me. Maybe not like worst of the worst kind of territory. Season three's got a few of those. I think Favorite Son is pretty bad. I think False Prophet's pretty bad.
But it depends on who you
I
ask
know
with some of
it
these
does.
episodes. Some people do like these episodes,
Yes,
so
I know.
yeah.
Absolutely, that's true. That's just subjectively speaking. They're the kind of episodes that are low on my list. But we know we have a friend who likes Favorite Son, and I got the impression I was interacting with somebody on Blue Sky actually, which I'm newly on, and a good friend of ours, Ross. I was getting the impression was a decent fan of False Prophets. Thought I was a little overly harsh on that one. You're right. But I think the highlights of season 3 are really high, and I like the consistency for the most part of those kinds of strong, competent uh, episodes. It doesn't have the stretches, but season two has that season three doesn't is the serialized arcs. Season two is kind of that's kind of like the hallmark of that season for me is the way that those uh, longer story threads kind of play out as the season gets going and wraps up. A lot of things kind of culminate there with the last couple of shows. Um, so they're both good. I enjoy both, um, but I'd choose three over two myself. So let us know what you think. I'm curious, Jeff. Um, but I think we should get into Lower Decks season four. We talked about it last week a bit. We talked about three, four, and five last week or 2 weeks ago. So we've gotten two more. Um, two pretty big episodes actually. A big heavy Ferengi episode with some recurring Deep Space Nine characters coming back, and we have a very Lower Decks lore heavy show this week with a few badges more. Um, what do you think of kind of them collectively? Do you have a strong preference of one over the other? Are you up on them, down on them? What are your kind of general takeaways of the two as a kind of as a group?
Yeah, for me, I definitely like the Ferengi episode a little bit more.
Yeah,
And then a few more badgies was a few badgies more.
two badges
Sorry.
more. Yep.
Um, it I was less hot on, I guess,
Hmm.
just because maybe I and maybe it's just where I'm at. But
Hmm.
I'm not that big of a fan of some of these characters that do
Yeah.
return. So again, that's and maybe it's a little bit cooler for me. Um, but I really did love bringing some of these legacy characters back. I think that's taking advantage of the median of animation and we can just do kind of some voiceover work for some of these actors, and it just makes it. Um, I think it fit bringing some of these characters back, and I think it was pretty funny at some points. And again, that episode for me, you know, the A B plot, whatever, the two plots, and then again, it's the away mission kind of has its own kind of
Yeah.
structure. So, um, but I didn't find myself wanting to go back to this storyline or this plot. I think that's for me a mark of a good episode. So
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, that maybe is a little higher because of that regard. It's both A and B plots, and then B1 and B2 maybe. I think just had some really good character development, but also some just generally funny moments and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, just general thoughts so far.
I
My general
agree.
thoughts so far.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Ferengi episode, Parth Ferengi's Heart Place, and I even liked last night's or last week's Two Badges more. I agree with you. I'm a little cool on some of those recurring characters. I'll say that Peanut Hamper annoyed me a lot less this week than she did last season in her big episode in season three. Um, but I, I think what these last two episodes have kind of driven into me is like this season of Lower Decks has like a theme. It's really like through the ridiculous comedy and all the silliness that Lower Decks has. It's really about like change, struggling to change. These characters are dealing with like the change that's coming from their promotion and their relationships with each other. In Parth Ferengi's Heart Place, it's all about Tendi and Rutherford's like kind of fear of changing their own vibe and what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's big change there. To Lynn in the episode before these two dealing with change and her circumstances, living on a Federation ship instead of being back, with her people. Even the AI characters are changing and having to deal with that, like they're being forced to change through their rehabilitation uh, uh, situation, but the kind of thematic consistency of the season being about that is working on me. I'm kind of impressed that it's that kind of consistent and that their eye is on that ball. And even when they kind of go so wacky with this last episode with the AI characters, it's still about that, and it's still kind of enhancing those kinds of threads. So I'm into that. Um, I, go ahead.
Which I like because you'd think it, at the start of the season we get this big mystery about
Yeah.
like the ship. We thought initially, it was spoilers, it was destroying them, but
Hmm.
it's we find out later that it's not. But again, you think that is going to be the common thread or the
Hmm.
really common theme throughout the whole series, and
Right.
to a certain extent it kind
It
of
is.
is, but also the bigger thing here is
Yeah.
change
Yep.
and how these characters, um, again, it's I think it's very there's some depth to it because it's not just change in promotion, change in scenery. It's all of the above with
Hmm.
as far as change goes, and
Hmm.
so I think that that's really good.
Yeah. Everything
Yeah,
about them is changing around them. Like, yes, they're
yeah,
being promoted, and I think in Parth Ferengi's Heart Place, I love Mariner's story in that. Like her coming to grips with like that's all about change and her not wanting to change. And that's been her hang up forever. Like this is why she gets promoted and gets thrown back down. Like she's got a comfort zone and she does not want to leave it. That to me is like her big that's what makes her such a good character. She's got such a clear like thing she struggles with. And I just love that story. I like it when Lower Decks is focused on character and using the humor to explore that and makes the characters look good, makes them smart. And that's why I was like down on the Orion episode from a few weeks ago because I thought it played down the smarts of Boimler and Rutherford. I think it made them look dumb. This week in A Few Badges More, I thought it made Boimler look really smart. He was a step ahead of Agnes. He was playing the long con, and um, that that's what I like to see in Parth Ferengi's Heart Place. I think even Captain Freeman, the way that she was like she had Rom and Lita pegged from the beginning. It was her
from the
that
beginning.
handled it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I love that. I want that
yeah.
to be more common in Lower Decks, and I love it when they do it. The episodes that I like the most from that show tend to be episodes that do that, as opposed to the other way around. Um, so, uh, broadly speaking, I'm a fan of both episodes. I think they're both good, but I think Parth Ferengi's Heart Place is really good for the reasons you talked about. I think when I think about Ferengi episodes in Deep Space Nine, I'm not a fan of most of them. When you go to Ferengi, it's not necessarily like a welcome stop a lot of the time. Uh, of the episodes we've gone to Ferengi, this is probably the best one, I
Yeah, I think so.
think.
I can
It's,
confidently say that. Yeah,
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 I would say that too. I'm pretty confident in that. I don't think there's too many that we actually go to Ferengi in Deep Space Nine, maybe two or three. But this is,
just to visit Moogie. But
yeah,
yeah,
right.
this I don't know. I think it. I don't know. It plays a lot of it, but it makes it feel different because you think, the setup of the episode is really like, them wanting to experience it. But I think there's some really fun things that happen to make it feel a little bit fresh and do some comedic things with some
Yeah,
of the flip some roles and stuff. And so it's really good.
and it's all about advancing the characters too. Like it's about pushing Mariner to realize that she's got this issue and she's got to do something about it. Uh, and it's about Rutherford and Tendi, which has been like kind of a bubbling, one of those like obvious something's cooking there.
Will
Uh,
they? Won't they?
will they?
Classic.
Won't
Will
they?
they? Won't they?
Classic.
Which
Will they?
is
Won't
which is such a Star Trek trope,
they?
and so
Yes.
yeah, I love that they kind of explore that. But and then it's still even the next episode, it's still kind of
Yeah.
forefront right there.
Very much so. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. And that's 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 when I like Lower Decks the most. Is when it has its eye on that kind of ball. So I'm pretty happy with these two. Uh, I think um, I was not surprised. Like, did you? I mean, the way that the Rom Lita thing played out, the good cop, bad cop, smart cop, dumb cop kind of. Did you peg that kind of right away? Did you know that that's what they were doing?
Yeah,
You did,
this is some
yeah.
sort of con. Yeah, this has to be
Yeah.
this.
Hmm.
And I don't think they do a legacy character like that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think that
That's what I
I
would do.
was like, there's something more
Yeah.
here. So I was definitely with Freeman on that. So
Yeah.
and then again, I like that they're slowly giving her the confidence to be able to be like, no, she's right. This is kind of a con that they're trying to pull here. So yeah,
Yeah. And know how to handle it. Like be not be afraid to speak up
yeah,
and kind of take control of the situation. Uh,
they're
and it paid off.
slowly changing the perception of the California
Yes.
class. I think it's
Yep.
again that's another change. That's
Yes.
another like we point to
Hmm.
changes here. It's just
Yep.
like changing the ability of the California class because I think we just we're just conditioned to just write this crew and this um, lower decks
Yeah.
off. So it's good.
Right. And it's refreshing too. Like obviously the shows that this is kind of parroting the most. The kind of Berman era, TNG, Voyager. Um, you know, those shows have to handle change very subtly. Like they're episodic. They can't deal with change the way that this show is, and the way that Deep Space Nine kind of gets away with it as well. Um, but it's nice to see them like exploring this, like seeing them get promoted and have to deal with like circumstances changing around. It's like something that we all have to do. It's such a real life thing that like as we age and circumstances around us change, and like it's not something that we consciously do. It's not something that we like choose most of the time. Sometimes we do, but it's something that happens around us all the time and is forced on us, and it's such a common life thing, and it's it's nice to see Star Trek kind of deal with it so head on and have it like wear it on its sleeve for at least the season. I mean, Lower Decks has been building to this for 4 years now, I think, but uh, I like that this season's kind of making that its thing. It's, um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy with it.
Hmm.
Um, it's also good to hear Jeffrey Combs' voice. I think, yeah, I mean, I know you're not huge on the AI characters, but just
Yeah.
there's a comfort value I think with hearing him, and uh, I think again, I think my favorite thing in that is the Boimler being ahead of the curve because they were in the last episode that Agamus was in too, in the season 2 episode. Mariner and Boimler are kind of conning Agamus, and I like that. Again, they don't forget that and don't have Boimler be dumber this time around. Like he's good. Like he knows what he's doing and is ahead of the curve. So um, yeah, I hope that I hope that's the wrap for Peanut Hammer. I kind of would be good with that being sort of like the satisfying conclusion. The rehab worked. She's back with her exo comps in
Yeah.
comfort zone, and kind of leave it at that.
Yeah. It felt I don't know. It felt like a nice little arc wrap up um, to maybe a character that I wasn't too hot on to begin with. So
Yeah,
um, but it feels uh, it feels good to wrap that up. But
yeah.
it also it's like it's Star Trek.
You never
Who
know.
knows
Yeah,
what kind of
uh-huh.
you're never dead or your character's never finished, especially
Right.
with lower decks.
And they certainly left all three of these characters in a place of like, could be it, maybe it won't be. I think there's a chance you see them all again, or some of them again. Uh, Badgie uh, going like the V'ger route of kind of getting zapped into some other dimensional existence was a choice. Um, I'll say that every time I heard Rutherford say the word Gucci, I laughed. I think like just Rutherford in general. I think there are things he can say that are not even funny. Like they're just basic things. I laugh. There's something about his voice that makes me laugh, and I just I'm an easy guy for that to get a laugh.
Yeah, I'm an easy get to when you do like a classic. Star Trek trope, like a character ascending to a
Ascending.
higher
Yeah.
plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Things happen
that
to
to
them. Like
me is yeah, that
off
to
they
me is
go.
just how many characters have we seen do that?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, Wesley or
Hmm.
yeah,
Off
yes,
they go.
some of these other characters. Yeah, it's good.
Yep. Um, so we have three to go. Are you any theories on the fine arts, real quick? Just getting into fine art again and that language. Uh, like they had the sound effects like spot on,
Nailed.
perfect
It's
as they usually
nailed.
do.
Yeah,
Totally
yeah.
nailed. Do you have any theory on like what this is? Is it something new? Is it something we've seen before? I have no theory at all. I have no idea what the heck is going
I
on.
have not at all. It's as mysterious as you can get, I think, and it
Hmm.
has a lot of screen time. It's like every episode there's a little update, but it still I have no idea. I don't know. I really for some reason my mind goes to a drone ship like that was in Enterprise, but it's still I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
No clue.
No clue. I don't either.
And and it's crazy because we're 7 episodes in,
Yeah,
and the biggest chunk that we got was in the seventh episode, where it's like, oh no, they're stealing them and taking back to somewhere else.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, no clue.
yeah. I give them a lot of credit. I think this is kind of the kind of serialized storytelling I kind of like very kind of mild. They can tell individual stories around it, um, but it's just enough to like be a satisfying kind of good mystery that I have no clue where it's going, um, and hopefully it'll lead to something cool. And I, a lot of confidence that it will. Um, but yeah, I'm clueless. I have no idea
Yeah,
where it
which
goes.
I'm completely happy about because yeah, it's again, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm not trying to be like, well, I just want to this little thing. I want to get back to the crew and the Cerritos. Like I'm intrigued, and so I
Yeah,
think that's again a good balance of. I'm not wanting to get back to this storyline or that storyline. I'm always just
right.
into it. So
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I don't really have anything else. I'm pretty so far. I'm a big fan of Lower Deck season two. Uh, this is closer to that than one and three for me, which were solid, but maybe a step down from two for me. I think this
yeah,
is
yeah, 2-3-1 maybe. At least it's again.
two, three, one for me.
It might be yeah. It might be it's like I want to see how the
How it
season
wraps.
ends.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
early to be doing it, but
Um.
I'm pretty happy with it so far, though. To
Yeah.
be honest, there haven't been any big misfires, and I don't know that it hasn't been like a wage douche yet for me, like a real complete great
Classic.
classic.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
my favorite of the season, honestly, is the Ferengi episode, because of the the satisfying character moments, uh, the the way that it portrays the characters. Like I said last week, I'll like even if the humor is not totally landing for me, I'll forgive a lot of things for like the trade off of something juicy, like Flynn and Mariner in that episode talking about Flynn having to change and be okay with changing, and then in the Parth Ferengi's Hard Place, it's honestly the Mariner stuff is like the truly great. I think Mariner's on track to be like the great character from the show. I think like there's a lot of really good uh, meat to chew on as far as like the background and how she got to where she is, and her unique angle on like life in Starfleet. I think she's a lower decker, but she's been around a while, and there's just a lot of fresh and new stuff going on with her. And she's unlike anybody else. I love Boimler. I love them all, but I really think episodes like the Ferengi episode from 2 weeks ago really enhance Mariner's character. So, you know. Any last thoughts? Anything you want to throw out there before we wrap this up? Have a kind of early out this week.
Not that I can think of. Um, I, we didn't talk about New York Comic Con. I think it was this week.
Hmm. Yeah,
Not
not a whole lot.
much,
Not a whole
but
lot.
also, there's rumblings of early screenings. So definitely be on the lookout for whatever social media platform you're on. I know there's a couple now. Definitely be just on the lookout for spoilers or not on the lookout for spoilers. Just just
Avoid.
take that with a grain of salt because I think there was some early screenings and then, obviously I think some screeners go out early just anyway. So again, as we approach the end of this nice little run of Lord X here, just be conscious of the little one screaming and then
Yeah.
also Lower Deck spoilers. So
Yes.
yeah.
Definitely agreed. I think as we get ready to end the season, it's really, really important to be on the lookout for that. Screeners do go out. They aired 408 yesterday at New York Comic Con. Whenever stuff like that goes on, you just gotta be wary. Sometimes people think they're being cute and they think they're like not really spoiling, and they say just enough to kind of you know hint at things or whatever, and it can really set people off. And it sometimes will spiral into bigger conversations that'll infiltrate your timelines, and you just got to be careful out there if you're sensitive to being spoiled, which I increasingly am. I don't want to be more and more than maybe I was when I was younger. So yeah, I think that'll about do it for this week. We've had some long ones in recent. Some of our recent episodes have gone like over the hour mark. I'm pretty content to have this one be a shorty. We touched on a lot of things. This is kind of a big news kind of episode. We've talked about Prodigy. I think that's a big deal. That's going to be a big talking point in 2024 as it kind of goes into its new chapter, the new season. Um, and I think these Lower Decks episodes were important, and we're kind of coming down the home stretch. So I'm glad we took the time to, you know, bat them around a little bit. So
Yes. You know the drill. The discussion does not have to stop here. Come over to Twitter. Um, it sounds like Dark Sky is the thing with Bill now.
blue sky,
Blue
blue
Sky.
sky,
Um,
new.
so, and then our Discord server, obviously, for all things Star Trek discussion. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, we look forward to um, coming back in 2 weeks with another great topic. Until then, I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody.